Someone's playing a game, 47.
Over and over, I relive my first moments on this alien planet.
So the interesting thing about acting in video games is that you don't have a lot of information about the character at the outset. What you do have, however, is usually an image of the character and a little biography, and then some of the lines that the character will be speaking over the course of the game. So that's what you use to audition for the role. And then when you get the part, you go in and you don't really have that much more information than you had during the audition process. So in order to prepare, it's a preparation process that happens very much in the moment. I will really take on board what the character looks like, in particular her posture, how she stands, how a person's posture can really in some ways be a kind of biography of who that person is and maybe what their sense of self is. So I will literally take on the posture of the character as it's presented in the image. And then after that, it's about making choices that come from the information that's at hand, and also working very carefully with the game developer and also the performance director in the moment, in the room, in the studio. So the prep is very last minute. It can be very much in the moment. And it's really about showing up into the studio with a sense of readiness, a sense of willingness to play and to just go for whatever is thrown your way. It's very collaborative, and I think actors who work in games are really dependent on their performance director to kind of fill in the gaps, to explain, okay, this is what's going on in this moment, and this is what's just happened to you. Because of course games are also, they can be non-linear, there's loads of different branches, so you really need that context in order to make choices about how you might wish to, deliver your lines. So that collaboration is primary.
This world is becoming part of me, infecting my mind.
I have always done voiceover. So when I graduated from theatre school in Canada, it was something that I did alongside what was at that time a lot of work in the theatre. And essentially, as a jobbing actor, especially when you graduate from drama school, you audition for whatever is sent your way, and if you are offered a part, you take it, and thus begins your journey as an actor. When I started, I started in Vancouver, and there was at that time a lot of dubbing of Japanese cartoons and animation, and a few other little cartoons and things like that. So that's really where my voice career started. And I suppose it's kind of the same story in terms of, flash forward to where I am now. It is a question of auditioning and being available and kind of being in the right place at the right time and having the opportunity to audition for a role that allows you to excel and shine and grow. And I think certainly that was the case with Celine in Returnal.
My only hope is to break the cycle.
It's hard for me to sort of say, it's this particular person who's inspired me. I think when you've been working as an actor for as long as I have, there is this ever-growing community of people who are a source of inspiration. And I suppose in some ways that starts with my teachers, the wonderful tutors and teachers that I worked with when I was in drama school all those years ago. And then my colleagues who I went through that process with in drama school and who are now such wonderful members of the entertainment industry in Canada, which is where I'm from. And then there's all those amazing actors and actresses that we see on our screens in film and television, of which there are just so many whom have inspired me. But when I think about, the ones that inspire me the most, there's some women that come to mind. For example, Allison Janney is a wonderful American actress. Sam Rockwell, I think, is so interesting. Of course, Daniel Day-Lewis. Paul Thomas Anderson is a wonderful director and auteur. And I really could just go on and on and on. No, I have not been recognized by my voice alone, but I have had people say to me, do you know what? You have such a nice voice. You should get into voice acting. And I always say, thank you so much. I'll think about that. Thank you.
You help me take care of my family, I'll help you take care of yours.
So the way we worked on As Dusk Falls was we would literally film the scenes. And it was kind of like a crossover between a theatrical rehearsal and being on a film set. So we had the costumes, the hair and the makeup, everything that you see in As Dusk Falls. And then the artists would take the most significant moments that they could identify out of that scene, and those were the sort of stop motion moments that they would use to amplify and to contribute to the narrative of the game that you end up playing. So it was quite a unique process, As Dusk Falls, and it was hugely enjoyable.
What are you doing?
Improvising. Well, I think Diana Burnwood in Hitman has some very iconic lines like, I'll leave you to prepare, and good luck, agent. And, you know, lines like that seem to come up over and over and over in those mission briefings. They're lovely little sound bites, and they do stay with me a little bit.
Good luck, 47.